Good morning, Magic Nation. Today, they're going to talk about incels. They're going to talk about how these males sit around and how dangerous they are to everybody, everyone, everything, especially to women. Fair use. Let's watch.
Welcome back to the Griot. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we want to talk about a new epidemic that the U.S. Surgeon General says is concerning: loneliness and isolation. Isolation and loneliness are linked to depression, anxiety, sleep symptoms, sleep problems, inflammation, immune changes, and pain. U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy goes as far as to say that widespread loneliness can be as deadly as smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. This framework around social connection includes 6 pillars, like calling for more pro-connection public policies, increasing education on the benefits of social connection, and reforming digital environments. Now, that last one is vital. A new online community centered around involuntary celibacy is growing, and some experts warn that it could be turning into a hate group. On Tuesday, we told you about the incel and femcel movement. An incel is a man who is involuntarily celibate. A femcel is a woman who thinks she's the reason for her celibacy. She thinks of herself as undesirable. The online community gathers on forums like Reddit, and the conversation, it's turned dark, including men blaming women and wanting to hurt them because they don't have an active love life. Joining me to unpack the psychology behind this new movement is Shaheen McLaurin. Shaheen is a licensed therapist and social worker. Shaheen uses social media to advocate for representation in mental health. I want to thank you so much for joining me, family. Welcome to the Griot. Give us a little background on these groups. How did they get here?
So much like any other social group online, the internet acts as a tool to help people create access to one another and formulate community where our day-to-day lives and distance has stopped us in the past. People form communities around pretty much anything. I'm a part of several communities online myself, and it is, unfortunately, communities that don't necessarily aim to be positive for me too. And some of those communities are people who talk about the ills of society and use those ills of society to, incite violence or harm against marginalized groups of people. Incels being one of those groups. Femcel, I'm not gonna lie, Femcel is pretty new. I think you acknowledge that as like a new group of people. Have I ever personally ran into Femcels online? Not really, but yeah.
Let me be honest with you. Shaheen. I'm worried about incels and femcels, but I'm particularly worried about incels because men, we don't just be wild, talk wild. We get violent. And there's so much misogyny and patriarchy in this world that I worry that, the threat against women and women-identified people more broadly is real. And they scare me. Where'd they come from? I mean, I feel like there was a time where they didn't exist, and now they're all I hear about.
Oh, they always existed. One thing about that, well, at least in our context, in our modern society, I believe incels existed. And the reality is, if you look at the way society is structured, a lot of facets and factors go into creating the isolation and loneliness that lead towards this involuntary celibacy. Specifically, if you look at like the economic model we live under, capitalism, and the way that it has structured itself to be a man, he works a job after he graduates high school or college. If he gets a job, he meets a woman, he takes care of this nuclear family. Under the nuclear model, we have seen over the last couple of decades how unsustainable that model is and just how unrealistic those economic outcomes are for people at this day and age. And that failing has led to a harder time getting partnership or connecting with people around us. And that is across the board. It's not just for the involuntarily celibate, like connectivity and isolation. Isolation is on an up, connectivity is on a low. And that is just because of the way society is currently structured and the way we have policies and culture that just does not encourage or emphasize the importance of social connections. Incels are the violent ones, though.
That's my question. How do you get to that point? Like, there's a way there. Okay, I'm celibate. I'm lonely, I'm sad, I'm isolated, I'm depressed. But somehow it goes from there to hatred, and from hatred to violence. How did they get to that point?
Patriarchy. If you want me to put it in one word, I would say patriarchy. If you wanted me to put it in a couple, patriarchal people who prey on men who are involuntarily celibate. Think the Kevin Samuels, the what is that man name? The bald head one who was just in jail. I don't know his name.
Yeah,
the one who
he was trying to think of Andrew Tate.
Right, and so many who prey on involuntarily celibate men who preach this misogynistic rhetoric that ultimately pushes them towards hate. They need to find an outlet for their pain and their isolation and their hurt. And a lot of these men come in, get money from these communities, and also push the needle towards hatred, which ultimately results in violence. And I just want to emphasize too.
This also. Oh, go ahead. Finish your thought, please.
I was just going to say, I want to emphasize that, incels are violent. There's a long history of violence with incels. The reason I'll watch my back when I'm at a movie theater, at a grocery store, at any venue is because incels have a history of going towards down that pipeline of violence. And that's why I would never compare it to themselves.
Well, fair enough. We agree on that. Social media is another piece of this for me. Social media is a highlight reel. You see the best parts of people's lives, their food, when they're eating good, their vacations, their dates, their new clothes. A lot of it ain't even true, but you see the best parts of people's lives almost exclusively. And it makes a lot of us feel less attractive, less resourced, less happy, and at the end of the day, more lonely than ever. How does social media intensify these feelings that incels, and maybe just everyday people, experience?
Yeah, I think social media, much like any other tool, can be used if you approach it from that angle to make people feel horrible about themselves. The comparative nature of social media exists without. But specifically to what you're speaking of, one thing that I think is really important to note is that people are not meant to interact with or engage with the amount of people that they do on a daily basis that they do online. This is a new part of the human experience. We are not supposed to know thousands and thousands of people. We are not supposed to be known by thousands of people, or at least this is not something that is precedent. This is not something that is common or that has been common in human history. This is a new territory. And I think with new territory comes trying to understand and figure out how to use that for positive as opposed to negative. And right now, because of the comparative nature, having so many people that measure your life against, it has shown to have very adverse effects on people's mental health, which is why I also advocate for balance when it comes to how you engage with social media. But that violence is also stoked by having a platform. Everybody has the ability at any point these days to say something and it go out and reach thousands of people.
And everybody's a star of their own. Everybody's a star of their own show. Everybody can become the center of attention, but in ways that don't necessarily reduce loneliness if you're lonely, but can in fact do the opposite. It's a really tough thing, and we hope that people who are struggling with these issues find ways to cope, find ways to address the loneliness, find ways to get mental health support. That's why we encourage everyone to seek mental health resources and supports wherever you can find them that are healthy and restorative and humanizing, because we all need it, y'all. We all need it.
And I'm going to stop it right there. So you heard what he said. The Kangs sit around, they listen to Andrew Tate, Kevin Samuels, they listen to all this red pill content. And I remember they had MGTOW, men going their own way, and they're telling other men, just be single, don't date, don't be bothered with any women. And we all know the Kangs are the most violent incels because they go around, they beat up on black women, they jump on black women, they unalive black women, they grape black women. So this incel movement is much more dangerous than what you think. So people think, oh, it's just Kevin Samuels. Oh, he's just on the internet. Oh, he doesn't have any influence. I did a video not too long ago, for those who remember. I said, look like when Kevin Samuels came along and the rest of these men who tell black men to attack black women, hurt black women, the black femicide rate has gone up. The black femicide rate has gone up, and I blame Kevin Samuels and all the rest of these black manosphere types. You know, they influence a lot of people. You'd be surprised who sit around and listen. So basically, what it comes down to, most black males, like I said, are ugly. They're unattractive. They cannot get women. They cannot keep women. They cannot maintain women. And when I was listening to Princella Clark, the Queen Maker, she goes into great detail about the these incels and this patriarchy. You know, this patriarchy system has given them a false sense of hope, just like Kevin Samuels. And they feel like they deserve women. Women ought to be the bowing down. I just saw somebody on that Kendra G channel hollering about, I'm the prize. Women need to bow down. It's 10 women to one man. I'm the prize. You ought to run behind me. You ought to treat me like a king. You ought to treat me like a god. And you got a lot of women, such as myself. I said, oh, wait a minute. I'm not into the kings. I don't have to be bothered with bottom of the barrel bussy bandits. I don't have to be bothered with bottom of the barrel goddamn incels. They are very dangerous. We've all seen the stories where they walk up on black women and ask you for your phone number. Next thing you know, that woman done got shot in the face or beat down to the ground. Yeah. So you can think these fools sitting around with their little YouTube channel, O'Shea, Duke Jackson, Angry Man, and all the rest of these losers. You can think that they don't have any influence on these lunatics if you want to. Black males and males in general are already violent by nature, but you sit around and listen to this. You have black males sitting around saying black women need to be put under control. If they don't want to listen, they need to be killed. They need to be this. They need to be that. And I said, well, wait a minute, black man. I thought you said you were getting your passports. I thought you said you were going overseas. I thought you said you were getting better women. So what it is, they want black women to bow down, do whatever they say do. Black women are supposed to get used and abused, jumped on, have a bunch of babies, have all kinds of STDs, and you're supposed to say, well, that's okay. He's a black man. I don't mind being used and abused and being talked to like I'm crazy. So black women are finally waking up. Women all around the world are finally waking up and say, you know what? I don't have to be bothered with this patriarchal system. It is misogynistic, and we all know black women. We have what you call misogynoir. That is the misogyny and the hate of black women, and black males are very good with it. I don't care if it's a rap song, TV show, anything that these black males have their hand on, it is usually something very toxic, very hateful, very abusive towards black women. And like I said, they sit and listen to Kitten Hills, Kevin Samuels, Fresh and Fit, and many, many others. And well, now they're all over the place. They all huddled together online. Man, I'm ugly. I got this little bullshit job. I'm a high value man. Even though I work at Burger King, I'm a high value man. I work at Amazon warehouse making $15 an hour. How come they don't want me? I'm the prize. I'm the prize. And you got a lot of women who just said, hey, you know what? I'd rather be by myself. I'm choosing peace before I choose a violent, abusive, toxic fool. I'll stay by myself. So a lot of them are really mad that they can't get access to women. I just did some research about these dating apps, and it's mostly men on there. And they said men do the initiating, always trying to get a woman's attention. And you got a lot of women who got a lot of things going, and they said, hey, you know what? I can be picky. I can be choosy. I don't have to pick the first thing to come along. So these incels, they really feel that they're the prize. They feel like women, especially black women, should bow down. We should be the slave. Why do you think they sit around all day? Women ought to submit. Women ought to submit. Women ought to... All of you hear out of their mouth, submission, submission, submission. Be submissive to what? To dust? Nah, I don't think so. So there you have it. Danger of the incel. I don't know nothing about no femcel, because last time I checked, women are not going around saying men ought to be unalive. Even on my channel, I say keep away from the kings. Keep away from them so you don't have to take one out, because, you know, if you're dating the bottom of the barrel Dusty, he put his hands on you, you might have to take him out with your weapon. They're the ones going around saying black women should be unalive. We tell black women keep the hell away from them. Because you already know what I'm going to say. Don't feed them, don't fuck them, don't fight them, don't date them, don't birth their children, don't move them into your home, don't help them out financially, do not let them know where you work, where you live, none of the above, because, well, they're very dangerous. Let that sink in. It's Pretty Black, and I'm out.